One of my earliest memories and one of the first movies I ever saw in a movie theater was Spider-Man 3. I grew up with Tobey Maguire being the main and only Spider-Man of the time, and he was the childhood hero for a generation. This original Spider-Man trilogy, along with the X-Men movies, are the reason that we have an MCU today. So when I heard that they were going to re-release all of the Spider-Man movies in theaters, I knew I had to go see each one of them because I didn't get to see these in theaters their first go around. In the past 3 weeks, I've seen Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2, and Spider-Man 3, the original Raimi trilogy. I'm going to go over how well these movies have held up and why they are so timeless and why people are still going to see these today. With only $5 a ticket and only 400 plus theaters showing this across the US, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 have made millions of dollars already, which is crazy if you think about it. The original movie is 22 years old now, and it just is crazy how many people are still interested and love this story so much. 2 weeks ago when I went to go see Spider-Man 1, I was amazed at how many little children were there. Their parents, their older siblings taking them to see this movie that they grew up with, and the amount of kids screaming Spider-Man when he came on screen was just mind-blowing. It's so cool that a new generation is getting introduced to these films that I and so many other people grew up with, and man, Spider-Man 1 is just such a classic. Is it cheesy at points and has some clunky dialogue? Of course, but that's what gives it its charm. Tobey Maguire is the perfect Peter Parker in my opinion. He is the nerdy kid from the comics. In the story he goes throughout the first movie with the Green Goblin, learning great power comes great responsibility, all of these messages still hold up today. And speaking of Green Goblin, watching this movie, I think for maybe the 20th or 30th time in my life, it feels fresh every single time when I see Willem Dafoe play Norman Osborn or the Green Goblin. Again, this movie just has such a timeless feel to it with all of these characters, including J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, who many people believe is up there with Iron Man in terms of perfect casting for Marvel.
You serious?
Sam Raimi puts his definitive style on all three of these movies, and it was really just magic to see these again. Of course, I could go watch Spider-Man 1 on DVD at home or on a streaming service, but seeing this in the 35mm open matte format was so cool. It really did feel like I was watching this for the first time and noticing things that I never noticed before. And yeah, this movie, again, just is so good. The following week, so last week, I went to go see Spider-Man 2. And a lot of people consider Spider-Man 2 to be one of the best superhero movies of all time. And while Spider-Man 2 isn't my personal favorite, I was ready to go into this with an open mind, accepting the fact that, yeah, this could be the best one. And when I bought my Spider-Man 2 tickets, they actually had to move us to a bigger theater because so many people bought tickets. So we get in there and it's a completely packed house and people are hyped to see this movie. There were claps from the audience throughout the entire film, and the train scene is something that I'd never seen on the big screen, and it really just took my breath away again. Alfred Molina's Doc Ock is so iconic, and the actual struggle in this movie isn't necessarily just about him, but the internal struggle of Peter Parker deciding whether to be Peter Parker or Spider-Man. And you feel the anxieties and the stress for Peter in this movie and in Spider-Man 3. I think seeing it on the big screen just takes it a step further and really immerses you in this world. Like I said, this was a packed house. There were children who'd never seen these movies before. There were people dressed up, people wearing Spider-Man attire. It was just like a Marvel opening night. And I also have to really quick talk about Danny Elfman's score in this movie. What an iconic piece of music that opens up this film and plays throughout. It also is really interesting seeing this movie in theaters and people watching it all together after the events of No Way Home when Tobey returns. And all of the lines of dialogue, I mean, it was crazy how many lines from this movie and the first movie that I remember. I heard people while sitting in this movie recite the movie. And normally that would kind of annoy me, but it wasn't like they were talking the whole time. These lines in these movies are just so iconic. Overall, I think Spider-Man 2 raises the bar more so than I ever thought it did when I first watched it when I was younger. This is another movie that I've seen a handful of times, but seeing it in theaters really did something for me in terms of its ranking. I now put this movie above the original Spider-Man when originally I didn't. Which brings me to the third movie in the trilogy, which I saw last night. Now I promise you guys, I am not lying at all. Spider-Man 3 had the biggest turnout that I saw, as well as the most hyped crowd. I forgot how funny this movie was at times. With all the dark themes and terrible things that happen in this movie, there are great moments of comedy that are interspliced throughout that just made the audience erupt with laughter. J. Jonah Jameson, the whole emo Peter Parker Bully Maguire scene. The crowd was hysterically laughing, and everybody once again knew the lines of this movie and were reciting them to the screen. It shows how even Spider-Man 3, which didn't get great critic response when it first came out, has become timeless and has been underappreciated, and now people are realizing why this movie, in my opinion, is the best of the three. I know I'm going to get yelled at in the comments for saying that, but Spider-Man 3 is my personal favorite. The work with Sandman is honestly perfect, and I know a lot of people say Venom is just kind of thrown in there, but I think I like it. Venom is my favorite Spider-Man villain or anti-hero, and while this version of this character isn't anything that we had seen before, with Topher Grace being this pompous kind of loser, Eddie Brock you hate in this movie, but you feel bad for him kind of at the same time, but he's still a jerk, so when he gets the symbiote suit and becomes Venom, those negative characteristics just get amplified. I wish there was just more Venom in this movie. People say this movie's messy, it's got too many elements, and while I can totally see that, it is such a good time. There are so many things that happen, and it's such a roller coaster, and it's just eyeballs glued to the screen. Also, the symbiote effects in this movie look so good. I don't think they've been able to match that with Tom Hardy's version from the Sony universe. But Spider-Man 3 had the biggest turnout that I saw for all three of them movies, and I think the people who grew up watching this movie, like myself, have really shown up to the theaters to show their love and support for this movie. I think the director Sam Raimi himself actually went to one of these screenings for the re-release, I think of Spider-Man 2, and I'm sure he just absolutely loved the reactions the fans had to this movie that he made so long ago. I am so grateful that I got to watch these movies in theaters, and I honestly might go see Spider-Man 3 again before it gets removed.
You serious?
But in terms of the bigger picture, I think Sony needs to realize what they did here. These re-releases are only supposed to be showing 3 days out of the week, which was originally just the Mondays of every week, and they're only showing in select theaters across the US at $5 a ticket, and they see how much money is being made from it. I think this is the first step towards a Spider-Man 4. We of course have the Andrew Garfield movies being re-released after the Tobey Maguire trilogy, and then after that we have the Tom Holland movies, but I don't know how much money those are going to make. I mean, the hype for this Raimi trilogy is so great. I think the chances of Spider-Man 4 actually happening is greater than ever. We've seen Sam Raimi actually talk to interviewers about this and being excited to possibly return, and that he's open for it. Let me know down below what you guys think about these Spider-Man movies. They are my childhood. They're very near and dear to my heart, and I would love to hear what you guys have to say. I read every single comment, and I most likely will respond. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could subscribe to the channel, I'm posting stuff all of the time, so hit that button, maybe even hit the bell if you're so inclined, and I will see you all very, very soon.